So I'm not sure if I'm live, but it is counting me in like I am live all by myself again.
Hello, welcome to a great edition of F.Y.I. Technologies Live. So I am here with a very dear friend of mine and a very special guest, Leah, the life coach, a very dear friend of mine. Welcome, Leah. Thanks for doing my show today.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. I was so happy to hear from you when you're like, hey, would you like to come on and do it again? Because I miss what we used to do. So I appreciate this opportunity. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I hope this is the start of kind of re-engaging and doing some of the stuff we did before. And for those of you joining me for the first time, I have to give you guys a little bit of background, how I met Leah and why Leah has been such a very powerful influence in my career in the digital space, as well as a great mentor for me as well too.
Oh,
So
same.
yeah, I will tell you that when I first started, again, you just kind of you don't know what you don't know, and
Yeah.
I happened to come across this amazing individual online, and we just started connecting, and then all of a sudden, this grew into this little group of folks that we just kind of all started around the same time. The only
Yeah.
difference was that I was really a newbie, and Leah had enough experience to do a lot of the new things that I wanted to try out. Except that I was too much of a chicken to even try it the first time. And I always tell this story every time you come on the show, and I've always tell folks whenever I speak about you that I'll never forget the first time you threw me out there live, and it's like, okay, you want to do live? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Well, you're live. I'm
Let's
like,
do
well,
it.
what do you mean I'm live? Right? So
Yeah.
one of the craziest moments, most awesome moments out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, and I owe that, my
Oh.
friend, to you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Carlos. I like to tell a story about Carlos. See,
Oh no.
Carlos always does tell that story about me and how we met and I'm that kind of a life coach and I push you out there and get you started. And I do that with a lot of people. We just came together because everyone has lessons and blessings for you. And he was a beautiful blessing to me because he says that we were just starting out. All of the coaches were just coming out, teachers and things. It was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I'm not sure, but I was getting things together and I was going to throw my very first event. And I was so excited. It was a social media marketing conference. It was one being done by me, a woman. It was early on because, I got it above the wave. And that's good for most of the time, but sometimes you can be too ahead of the game and people don't get it yet. So I was trying to do this marketing conference for my birthday. So I didn't put a lot of marketing into it. I didn't put a lot of invites into it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like put it together with a birthday party and the conference. So I would just invite my friends and they can be in the audience filler and then have these great people come and celebrate them on my birthday. So kind of two stones for one. So when this happened on the day of my conference, everyone started to call out and tell me they're not coming. They're plus threes, their groups, their tables, their VIPs were not coming. So I was getting a little worried that I had rented this big old space and no one was going to come. And
I never knew that part of the story. So that's
oh
new.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah, and before you got there, there were some tears, there was some sadness to what had happened, and when you got there, you just made it all go away. So I wanted to make sure that you know that. So it was an open bar. It had great food. It was huge. It could have fit like 500 people, and I
Yeah.
think
Remember that.
maybe 20 people came. I'm not even sure how many people came, but there were not a lot of people that came, and it hurt my heart. But he had drove 3 hours, 2 hours from wherever he had come from to celebrate that with me. And he stayed and he was supportive. He was one of the last people that left. He made sure he brought me a toast before and afterwards. And I got to tell you, that just made the whole difference in that whole event. So that's the truth of who you are. And ever since then, you have showed up for me time and time again. And I'm so grateful and thankful for you. So it's all about the circle of relationships and your truth. I was just telling somebody that you got to show up as who you are because
Yeah.
that makes the impact. No matter you're a vital ingredient in this recipe. So you have to show up vibrant and great who you are. And you have always done that for me. And I'm so thankful that you have a story for me. But please know that you are so near and dear to my heart. And you made all the difference, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think it's actually been a little bit over 6 years since we actually connected and met. And I will tell you folks that this lady is somebody that if I'm ever in a jam, I have a question or whatever, anytime I've ever reached out to her, she immediately gets back to me. And I think it's also very important what you said about your circle, right? And the whole point of today's show was really talking about finding that truth. And since I
Yeah,
met you, it's always been about being authentic. It's always been about finding that truth. And I want folks to really start listening to some of changing that mindset and changing
yeah,
just how you think and all that stuff too. And it's been very powerful. And I think as we keep growing, our tribe keeps growing, right? And
yes,
we attract some of those great individuals. And it's that's a huge reason why you and I have stayed connected for so many years. And even some of the folks that even during that time that we connected with here and there, we're still I'm still in touch with them and I know as
me
you are
too.
as well too.
Yeah,
So I look forward to the next time we can all re-celebrate that together and just how far along we've come in the last
yeah,
6+ years. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
talk about the truth. Talk about um, that vision you have for the world, basically, because you are changing the world. You're a huge influencer. And I want
Thank you.
folks to really kind of learn that from you as well, like I did.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, the thing about it is, I used to be a life coach. I mean, a drug and alcohol counselor. So it was heavy on the heart. So I became a life coach because I can help people more with the modalities of just who I am instead of the protocol that was given to me or the template or the checklist or what somebody else thought it was. So it's been a beautiful journey coming into being a life coach because I do believe that I give it my all and I give it a lot of me. And like I said, I think that we're vital ingredients in this. So it's so important for us to find our true calibration and who we are and then show up in that no matter where it lands. Because where it lands, you are more than enough, no matter where it lands. And you need to take a reality check for yourself because a reality check gives you real results. Anything else is just going to have you off centered and off where you're trying to go. So it's extremely vital to find out your truth and who you are, so that you can show up in your space. People always tell me like, what do you see or how do you see what to do? Really, to honor yourself is the best thing that everyone could do. Could you imagine the pride that we would take in our environment, our surroundings, our investments, our expectations, our boundaries, if we truly loved and honored ourselves? And what a gift that would be to everyone around us in that environment or that vicinity. It'd be pivotal, pivotal in the instrumental of turning the world upside down, which is really what I want to do. I do believe that we are seeing things in a reverse way, and it's making us feel unworthy. And I do a lot of dedication to what's your calibration and accepting your light, your light and your dark, and letting it be okay. And knowing that you're a human, and this is an experience for you to decide where you want to be in that light and dark. And I always say the sweet spot where I hang out at is just where they meet, the balance of light and dark. And I find it easy to maneuver there. I get everything that I need in that space, and I feel good in that space. And I feel like I'm doing my part. The people that need to receive me are on my journey, and the people that I need to receive are also on my journey. And I think people miss their blessings and their lessons by trying to follow behind someone else and be on someone else's path of journey. You don't get what you need in somebody else's template and somebody else's checklist and somebody else's plan, or trying to replicate what they did. You have a different mindset, a different response, and every situation that you're going through is only calling for you to respond to that. And when you're busy and stressed, I always tell people that means like you're necessary, you're needed. You personally are needed in that space to solve that problem. So I think a lot of problems will be solved starting with ourselves and our truths.
No, and you're right. And we don't really think about it in that respect, because when you're busy and all that, you're just thinking like, I don't know, I don't have enough hours in a day. You don't look at it from the perspective you just gave, right? Which is, um, you really, I guess when you're really thinking about it, and it's just kind of just hit me now. It's like, you know what? You're right. Because everything you're doing, because you're running out of time, is because you are needed. There's a reason why you're busy. There's a reason why I have to do X, Y, and Z to do it. But you're so caught up in all of the noise and the chaos that
Yeah.
you really don't think about it, you know?
No,
Yeah,
no.
no, you're absolutely right. So when you started your career, and I know it's always been about helping folks, and as you transition into a life coach, think back like when you started. Think back of a story of someone that came to you, and actually I'm a living proof of that. But someone other than me that's come to you that's they came to you in a very stressful situation, and you were able to help them with the calibration. And I want you to talk a little bit more about what calibration is all about too, so folks really get an understanding about that.
Okay, that's a good question. Let me take a story that's not too personal. Let's see. I have some pretty extreme situations because I was a drug and alcohol counselor. So, like, I've had some extreme situations where I have used the modality and it did turn people around, but I don't want to put too much of someone's information out.
Sure.
Emotionally, and okay, so calibrating is first and foremost that you are more than enough. And it is a thing that I call my 3 C's, where you communicate, you connect, and you calibrate. So this happens all the time with all relationships, with the waitress, the bank teller, your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, your sisters, your brother. So you communicate. So you say one thing, the other person says one thing. Then you connect. Then you find out where it wasn't exactly what this person said and it was a little off with what this person said. So then you slowly calibrate that relationship to the highest, most productive, effective level that you can. And that's with everyone in your vicinity, because they all have lessons and blessings for you. And that is taking honor in your space, your environment, and the people that are sent to you on your journey and your path. Those are the times where your ingredient needs to show up. That's where your truth needs to stand up and be an example of leadership and greatness. So that's what calibrating is to me. It's getting to the truth of who you are and calibrating that to the most productive relationship with someone. So when I do help people transform, I change their whole mindset to either accept what they're already doing and they're not willing to change, or to change what they're doing to get the results that they want. So in calibrating, you expect it to be off, because some people go into things and they find it where they want it to be perfect, or they want to get it just right. It's never going to be perfect or just right. And because there's 7 billion people that affect what you're doing, you may get your paper in time on the desk, and then the teacher spills coffee on it and throws it away on accident. But you
Mhm.
did everything right. Just like those kids that took the SATs right now, and the UPS the delivery got damaged and they have to retake their SATs all over again, a whole set of students.
Right.
So you can never do it so well. All you can do it is do it your way. And that is what's supposed to happen. And that gives you the organic confidence where you can take every step with that organic confidence and know that you're supposed to be there, and that it's not bigger than you. you you are the champion of every single day. People move differently when you're moving in fear and you think it's going to beat you or it's going to be the end of you. It has never been the end of you. For all the days in the past, you've always been the champion. Your miracle always comes in. So I tell people to live in hindsight. Know that your miracle is coming in. So I tell you that long story about what calibrating is, how I change people's mind, just to let you know that, like, I've talked to people that have, like, been in extreme situations from other people, and I've helped them through that grief and that anger, where there were situations where they were being hurt and tortured, and I had to change their mindset because they couldn't get out of it at that time, but they survived it to then get through it and live another day. So that's, like, probably the extreme of life and death. And then there's little things of just motivating people to know that they're great. Someone asked me, what is the common thread that I see that holds the world back? And I thought it was self-worth, because when a person doesn't feel worthy, they don't do great things. Where there is no hope, there's no action. So that's a tragedy to everyone around us, because the whole entire world, because then our cures are not being done. Nobody's stepping out to do these inventions. That little kid that had that idea doesn't have enough confidence in their self to go take it to where it needs to be taken, to a parent, to a teacher, to a mentor, or whatnot, because they don't feel worthy of it. So then it goes to small things like that, where I can just change your mindset about things. And then there's times where I remember I did an interview with Ryan Seacrest on the radio, KISS. He wanted people to call in and talk about jobs that really weren't a job. They were like a ruse for getting women or men. And, people were saying, fitness trainers, things like that. And I think I called on and I said life coaches, because it was when it was just a big boom, and you kind of can take someone's emotional, and it was really merging with a lot of romance. So I told him that I was a life coach, and he was very intrigued with that. So he started to ask me some questions about life coaching and what made me different. And my answer was that I can change your perspective to live the greatest life that you want to live, of accepting yourself. Because, and I gave him the example, I said, we're talking about infidelity. I think infidelity happens a lot. And people accept it, but they don't accept it in their self, but they accept it in their actions and staying. So I can change someone's perception of what cheating is, what, harm is being done to them, to turn it around and change it into something totally different. So I can change your perspective of what infidelity is, so that then you can live in a life of maybe a polyamorous village that comes and supports your whole entire family. Now, that's just an example of just how I can change something that's negative and transmute it into something that is the reality of the person, and let them live there and accept themselves as a whole. So I heard what you said, that you wanted an example, but I wanted to give you an example of just how I change things for you to feel wonderful and complete and whole in your truth, because you are more than enough. And that's the point that I want to get across. You need not do anything further to live in your truth, but to examine yourself and show yourself the love that you show others. Check in on you. When you go to check in on those same people, put yourself on that roster. You send yourself a text, how you doing today? I hope you have a good day. Leave yourself a few notes, and just get into your best self, because you are worthy by the breath that you breathe every day. And that's how you know your ingredient is still necessary. And the things that you have to solve, I don't see problems or good and bad. Oh, why is this bad keep happening to me? It's left and right. It's directional. Once you get to a level of loving yourself and knowing that this universe, this God, this world created you and loves you and gave you life, you start to live in that potential and honor that. And I think it should be an obligation, not just an option. But I find it hard to do it when you have to go to school, you have to work, and your parents tell you what to do and all of that. But with great intention, all things are possible. So I think once people really can accept who they are and really just pour who they are into their surroundings, their environment, of who they are, their hobbies, their likes, their needs, their wants, what is success to them, not to someone else, or to the dollar bill, or to the bank account, the digital currency, whatever. You are more than enough, and all you need to do is show up. There's not a lot of work that goes in with being you, but it's a ton of work with trying to be Joe over there and Sally over there. So I definitely bring people their own worth, let them know that they're more than enough, change their perspective, because all of this is subjective, and your perspective is your life. So you showing up in your truth gives you your true divine life. And that's what I help people see, and that it's easier to get there than they think.
What started to be an interview is actually ends up being just what an amazing coaching session this has been, because this is powerful. And I also want to make sure that those that are joining us today too, and we're going to talk about this here a little bit later on in the show, but I'm scrolling on there, the ilegacynow.com website on there, and I want you to talk about that in a moment. But like you said, people that are listening right now, so something that stood out for me too is, we tend to give and we give and we give, but we always forget about us, right? And you're right. We never put ourselves in that list. We never put ourselves in that rotation. And at some point you're going to get burned out. And then, I always say, right, even in a 9 to 5 job, you're killing yourself for a job, right? That you really don't want to even be there. At the end of the day, people will appreciate you, but if something happens to you, it's like, yeah, I feel bad. Something happened to him, but guess what? Life goes on. The business has
Yeah.
to go on. So
Yeah.
it's like you need to take those moments for yourself, rewind, recharge, whatever it is that you have to do. And that's something that a lot of folks forget. And I think the other piece that's also very valuable that you mentioned is that, you have a lot of people out there that are doing great things for folks, and, they do it, no expectations. And it's also nice to be acknowledged that you're doing something. And sometimes it's harsh when you come across that you give, and you give. It's like the old saying, right? Givers keep giving, and takers will keep taking, because givers won't stop, right?
Yeah. Right.
So there's a fine line between helping and getting taken advantage of. And I think sometimes that's the mindset that I think brings people down, to the levels that they're at, and then they need to really talk to hey, the other life coaches here, and you just heard. And actually, it's not even a sales pitch for you on that, but it's more the reality of what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
that this simple things that we don't think about or we take for granted, that it takes a life coach like you to kind of bring up and just say, oh, okay, I didn't even think about that. And I'm going full force, 100 miles an hour, but yet I don't stop and smell the roses, or I don't stop and take a break and find out, hey, am I going to run out of gas or not?
Yeah.
So that's powerful, very powerful.
I like to iterate that there's a balance between pouring yourself out too and being refilled. I think people think that they replenish themselves, but you don't. You pour into other people's cup, and there is a universal lever that is automatically switched when you get low enough and it's refilled. You're always refilled. You do not have to worry about your refill. So people always like, oh, you're so nice, Leah. You give too much. And I don't think you can ever love too much. There's always going to be a way that the universe, God, higher source works itself through you and fills you back up. So people will say, well, if you take care of everybody else, who's going to take care of you? The universe, God will refill you. And some people, they get to a point to where they're like right here, but your refill level is right here. So you kind of have this hard balance that you're carrying because you're afraid to release it and give to someone else. And you think you won't have. But once you give and release that, you're lighter in what you're carrying. And then God, the universe, will give you what you need to refill you, because you've been given things along your journey for other people, just as other people have been given things for you on your journey. So sometimes what you're carrying and trying to hold on to ain't even for you. Go ahead and give it away. You will sleep again. You will drink again. You will eat again. Your energy will come back. It will be refueled. And I wasn't saying that to negate, not to give yourself and let people take advantage of you. I am saying have no fear in how you give to people. You don't want to run yourself in the ground. You don't want to say yes when you want to say no. That's definitely not it. It's a part of calibration to learn when you want to say yes, and when you want to say no, to say no. Those answers take you somewhere. You will end up where you don't want to be by saying yes to stuff you don't want to say yes to and saying no to things you really want to say yes to. And you'll wake up and you'll look around and you're like, how did I get here? Too many wrong yeses over there and too many wrong no's over there. You know what I mean? But the law of polarity gives you power in that, because no matter where you are, there's always a light side to a dark side. There's always an up and a down and a left and a right, right? So the law of polarity gives you power that when you're in the dark side, to know that all you got to do is turn around and go to the light, and that you just made a few wrong yeses and nos to get there. So tune into yourself and get back on track to where you're supposed to be, and know that you're not cursed, you're not being punished, and you're not being tested. You're being prepared for what you want and what you need and what you ask for, because when you're going to go lead people and show people things, you cannot be knocked down and not get up anymore. The leader needs to learn how to get up in defense and offense, to escalate things, to escalate them if it needs be. You have to gain a little bit of control when someone attacks attacks you, because they are going to attack you. It's just the point of being in 7 billion people, being lessons and blessings to someone else, and other people being lessons and blessings to you. You're not cursed. You're playing your position. You're being your ingredient. Every problem, everything that you run across is there for you to apply yourself to it. That's it. Who are you in this situation? I tell people, get some popcorn, sit back, experience this. Don't try to manipulate it so much to where you're not manifesting, you're manipulating. You want to manifest, you don't want to manipulate. And you want to experience, you don't want to control. Because once you get into the driver's seat, you can only go to the locations that you know how to go to. You're
Right.
only going to see what you want to see. But when you open yourself up to the universe and other people, it's so much more. And you have to leave room for so much more. And you have thought that things were going to end you, and they didn't. You thought, oh, if I don't pay the rent, I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to do this. But you were late for the rent. You didn't pay it. They said, pay $100 late fee. Oh my goodness. All that worrying about being out on the street, pay a late fee. Things happen. Go into it, flow into it, and just show up and respond to it how you want to and how you feel in that moment, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Okay. I always kind of throw that in there, and just know that life is showing up for you. It's for you. It just get into your zone. And it's really hard to get into your zone because of school, work, money, feeding yourself and all of that. But with great intention, like Carlos said, you go and you clock in, you work 8 hours a day and work hard for somebody else. You need to be able to clock in for yourself and have great intention, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 5 hours. Give what you can to who you are. And it could be you, your business, your vision, your dream, or just what you love doing. It'll help you get closer to who you are and say yes when you want to say yes and no when you want to say no. It all adds up. And your calibration is so important. Your quirks, your dark side, your light side. It all adds up to something beautiful. You.
Awesome. And I also want to take a moment before we run out of time, because this isn't just a one episode show. I mean, talking to Leah, you got to know there's just, we can go on and
I
on. And that's
can.
why, yeah, it's just, we're definitely going to have to revisit a few more shows as well too. But I want you to take a moment now and talk about your new project, iLegacy Now. Talk about that, because I've heard what you're doing. I've read what you're doing, and we've discussed this, but I want the world to know exactly what iLegacy Now is.
iLegacy Now is a way to turn your memories and storytelling of your life into inspiration and a living legacy for those that you leave behind, so that they know where they come from, and they come from greatness. I think a lot of people take their great stories to the grave, or they take the great things that they've done and they keep it to themselves. They don't talk about it no more. I think once you can get it out and pin it and leave it as a living legacy for your family to realize who you are, where you came from, and what kind of made your calibration, and what made you up, it leads for inspiration for generations to come. So I take in this data by asking these questions on an app, in person, on the phone, through email, through text. So I ask you questions at your custom way, and we get a book by the end of the questioning. There's one other company that does this. They do one question a week, only through email. It goes for a whole year. You do get a book. They charge $88, $89 for it, actually. And they're doing wonderful. It's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful product. I wanted to take that and just add a little bit more so you can speed up the process. There were older people who weren't tech savvy that couldn't get their answers out. So there's in person, there's audio, there's video, there's all of these options that you can customize to get your legacy together in this inspirational book and leave it for your family. And then also there's the consulting, that if you don't feel like you've lived a legendary life, we're going to manifest that. We're going to create it and make it align for you in the vision that you see fit to honor your heart's desire in this lifetime.
So, as we're coming to the end of our show, what are some parting words you would like to share with the audience?
Parting words that I'd like to share with the audience. Find your living legacy moment. I was talking about this today, and I think that this is powerful. People go through life and they feel like it's hard for them. Nothing is hard unless you're comparing it to say it's hard. Change your perspective to be positive for you. Find the moment in life where you would get in line for this life all over again. All the pain you've had, all the trauma, all the bad. What moment in your life would you get into this line to get on this ride called life again? So I'll get on a ride, it might jerk me around and give me a little headache, and I get off, I'm like, woo, let's do it again, because I know that that's what it takes for me to see that beautiful view, to feel that wind in my hair, to feel that moment of freedom that I felt at the very top. And I'm okay to get right back in line. That's the same thing with life. Find that moment where your wife laughs so beautiful that you would take all the pain to go back and be that wife in that moment. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. There are moments where none of that pain mattered. And if they would have showed it to you before, you'd still take this journey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And on that note, folks, I'm also going to tell you that this is going to bring back some additional content and shows. I'm really excited to maybe relaunching our purposely calibrated show that we were
I'm
doing.
always available.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to be talking about that. You guys, thanks for joining me. Make sure that you follow Leah. You can find her also at ilegacynow.com, and you can find her also on social media as well. She is a beautiful soul, an amazing individual, and I'm very blessed that I've gotten to know her, and she's also part of my journey as well. So thank you for your time, bud. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Right back at you. All right, you guys, take care, and then we'll see you soon.